We are previewing Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier, the trilogy fight for all the marbles, as you put in the headline there. And yet, I think what better place to start than with your thoughts on the fight? I know you've got quite a bit to talk about, breaking it down, because there's a lot at stake on both sides.
First, I'll go for now, and then I'll put the Taylor tape up for people to have a good look at, have a little gander at. As you can see, everything's quite identical, isn't it, really? You look at the range, the height, the reach, the records aren't too far apart either. So, going into the fight, the trilogy, as we've said, it's for all the marbles. The winner gets Charles Oliveira. The loser, well, I think we'll get to that as we break down the fight. What going into this fight? We're looking for Conor McGregor with a bit of desire, something that's like, a fire in his belly, a Conor that we obviously, I don't think we'll see the same Conor we saw against Eddie Alvarez, but something similar to that, and not the Conor we saw in January.
Like him or loathe him, Chris, at the end of the day, he splits opinion. A lot of the stuff that splits opinion is stuff outside of the cage, isn't it? And you can't knock what he's done. He's still the king. He's still the kingpin in terms of what he draws, the money. They all want to fight him still, but yeah, huge implications for him. Because where does he go off the back of a loss? Where does he go? Let's just look at it from like the worst case scenario for Conor in your mind.
The worst case scenario. Well, okay, say he loses to Dustin Poirier on the weekend. He's got the Nate Diaz fight to fall back on, the trilogy that does need finishing, that needs ending, doesn't it? Let's just say we get even a worse case of scenario, and he loses to Nate Diaz, and he really goes down in a spiral. My worry here is, and probably Brett, who's listening or watching, will love this idea, but with Conor McGregor, and which worries me, is if he goes down the spiral and he loses to Poirier, he loses to Diaz, I've got a worrying feeling that he's going to need, you only want that many fighting. It's going to be Jake Paul, isn't it? He's going to go and answer that question that Jake Paul's been chasing for 6-8 months. And that's the worst case scenario for me, because for a guy of his quality, I don't want to see that route go. And that's what worries me. I think if we start to see the rise, we've seen the rise, and now we see the fall of Conor McGregor. And I feel like that could be the scenario.
Does he go back to the stance that he was, so well known for, so successful with? He was a bit more looser, a bit more freer in fights that he's won. Obviously, he was naturally the bigger man at 145, wasn't he? When you looked at him, I know he didn't like the cuts to 145. We've always said, haven't we? He's bounced around 145. He's had a little go at 170. We've always said 155, perfect for him, his size. But will he go back to that stance that he had, but he was a bit more loose, a bit more free? Because as you pointed out in the second fight, Chris, he didn't go down that route, and it left him a bit stale, didn't it? It left him a bit stale in there, didn't it? And Poirier just kept working on him at the lower areas first.
He worked him out, didn't he? And the stance he had against Dustin, we'll say the second one. We'll come to the first. We'll go to the first one after. It was his boxing stance, wasn't it? The whole rumor was he was setting up against Pacquiao, wasn't he? And he had all these boxing trainers in with him, and you could see straight away from when the bell went, he went straight forward towards Dustin Poirier, but he went with a boxing stance, and he was heavy on that lead leg, and throughout the fight, you saw Dustin Poirier just kick at it, and dismantle that first leg, that front leg, this leading leg. That's not what, the Conor McGregor we all knew. The Conor McGregor had the karate stance. Very loose, he's fluid, evasive, wasn't he? He's bouncing up and down on his tiptoes, on the ball of his feet, and he could move back and forward. And, he was a great countering fighter because he made people come to him. He set everything up. But the second fight, he didn't set anything up. He was very predictable. He went for that heavy on the left hand, constantly just trying to just put it where he can, find a spot to hit Dustin Poirier with. Dustin Poirier, worked it out brilliantly. He took Conor down. He shot Conor with that. I don't think Conor even saw that a takedown coming from Dustin Poirier. But Dustin Poirier just beat him up. You put him against the fence, and Dustin Poirier is very good at putting fighters against the fence and unloading and really put them under pressure. And if Conor just just lost himself. That wasn't the same Conor, and it's frustrating to see. And my thing is now, is he going to learn from all the mistakes in such a small window? Because it's January to July, isn't that big of a window, to grasp everything. But he's got to learn. He's got to learn something, and it's those. They're not just the leg kicks. I think obviously the leg kicks were pivotal, but he needs to find something where he can go back and become something of what he once was. Because obviously he's never going to be that guy again. I think that Conor McGregor, of 2015 is got long gone now. That isn't the Conor McGregor we'll see.
Like you said, he's not Che. You haven't seen that in a long, long time. And yeah, the style was different to what we'd seen before. But then they've all got better. Everyone's got better, especially in that lightweight division. Everyone's got better, haven't they? Poirier has said, "I'm one for looking at records, and 19-5, considering some of the guys Poirier's fought. That's just his UFC record as well. That's one hell of a record, Chris. When you look at who he's been in there with, and he got better. He's got better, and it was shown. It showed in that second fight." How much McGregor's been out the game that long, and it's had a bearing, hasn't it? I know that's the obvious thing to say. It's like you said, there's always all the stuff that's going on outside of the cage. McGregor selling the whiskey business, Has he got that hunger? And that's what we've got to see on Saturday, Sunday morning.
That's the question. That's the question, I think, on everybody's lips. Everyone who likes Conor or wants to see his downfall, they still want to see a good fight. I don't want to see the way it went last time, but you're going back to Dustin Poirier and you going off about the fighters he's beaten. I'll run them off for you: Pettis, Gaethje, Holloway, Hooker, and McGregor. Obviously, in January, he's only one loss. In between that was against Khabib, which everyone's
lost to Khabib.
Anybody.
Gaethje, they were touting Gaethje. So I don't want to make this about Gaethje. Gaethje was knocking people out left and right.
Yes.
Khabib has beat everyone. I know we take him out the equation now because he's not. He's on that. Well, we don't know if he's ever going to come back, do we, Chris? But there's that common thing here, isn't there? A loss to Khabib isn't actually that bad when you look. People. They've all lost to Khabib. Sorry.
No, I was just looking as well, and all those the fights I just told you about, then who he's fought.
Yeah.
Only two of them have gone to a decision, and that was Hooker and Holloway. And that's no easy feat against Max Holloway because Max Holloway is a volume fighter as well, and Dustin Poirier is a volume fighter.
On a side note, Holloway would be a good fight for McGregor.
Well, they fought.
That's what I mean. To see how well Holloway's come on from that fight. I know it was many years ago.
I think, but I worry for Conor in that fight because Max Holloway's just got better and better and better. Let's go. Let's break down. Let's say the first fight. We'll break down the first fight. So I'll bring a picture up. As you can see here, that was the finish. He caught him by the side of the ear, dropped Dustin Poirier, and obviously finished him with a few strikes on the ground. He predicted it, didn't he? That was the whole Mystic Mac came out of nowhere. That was the logo, isn't it? He predicted these things, as he said. If you look back and you watch that first fight and the complete difference of Conor McGregor, yes, it was his early days of Conor McGregor. It was the Conor McGregor that had the bravado, the panache, and he could get into people's heads, and he really got into Dustin Poirier's head in that first fight. You saw it all over. It was at the Embedded series they had back in those days, and he really, really pushed buttons with Dustin Poirier. But what he did there is he made Dustin Poirier fight his fight. And he was on his karate stance, he was back, and he was waiting and pouncing, and he made Dustin Poirier move with Conor McGregor, but he used the leg kicks to push Dustin Poirier away, so he wasn't getting caught. But Dustin Poirier was so eager to connect and to obviously strike with Conor McGregor. The Conor McGregor was in and out, and he used his counter striking fantastically in that first fight, and that's how he caught him, and he rocked Dustin Poirier a few times in that first fight. And it was really good to see when you go back and watch it, and knowing what you see now with the Conor McGregor and the Dustin Poirier sort of storyline. He was on his game, and that was the Conor McGregor everyone liked. He pushed the pace, but he didn't do it the way he did it in the second fight. It was very elusive, and he made, like I said, he made Dustin Poirier fight his fight, and it was masterful to see. But we go into the second fight, and as you can see, this was the end. Because he caught Conor up against the cage, hit him with a beret of punches, and then caught him flush right on the forehead. Dropped him.
He's a different fighter. It's crazy when you look at them two. So I just think it's just McGregor's rusty. Poirier's been constantly fighting in that time.
Yeah.
McGregor would come back. It was never he'd have such a bigger record now. McGregor, if had been away. You look at he's on 10-3 in the UFC as well. But I just think Poirier has been consistently fighting and he's got better and better. I know that's the obvious thing to say. But he has. It's simple as that. You can't come away from it, Chris. What do you think John Kavanagh will do differently? Now, we spoke about this off camera, and you said to me, does he listen to the corner? Because you'll tell us now in the second fight when he's in the corner, they weren't really giving him anything, were they, tactically, going into that next round? So
no, it was all boxing based again, wasn't it?
Well, John Kavanagh, you've got to question John Kavanagh if they lose this fight. That's my thing. You can't just put it all on Conor.
I don't know because you don't know who he listens to, and he has a lot of respect for John Kavanagh, so I can't see there being a problem there. But when you go into the first round and it finishes, they go to the stalls, they go to the corner. Nobody in Conor's corner are telling him the leg kicks, your front leg, the front leg kicks, he's getting battered by them. The calf kicks by Dustin Poirier, they are really digging in, and you can see by the second round the actual. The issues and the troubles he was having with his leg. But in that whole space of the minute before the second round, nobody in his corner was saying, like, you need to check these kicks. You need to change your stance. You need to do something that's going to change the outcome here. But he didn't. And obviously, he went straight back in again and got caught with leg kicks, got caught with calf kicks. And Dustin Poirier just turned the tide and completely changed the fight. Conor needs to go into this third fight now, and he needs to use leg kicks. Go back and watch Nate Diaz, the second fight. Yes, as much as it's close to people, I still think Conor won, I'd say 4-1 in that. Yeah. But he used leg kicks, and he really put a lot of pressure on Nate Diaz. And I know they're both southpaw as well. So, that front leg kick was there for him all day, but he used it, and he dropped Nate Diaz because of using the leg kicks and putting the pressure on him. You didn't see any of that in the second fight with Dustin Poirier. It was just strike base. Yeah, okay, he kicked him a few times. He caught him a few times, but Dustin took his best shots. But he wasn't setting him up like he used to. Look against Eddie Alvarez, how he set up every single strike. And then you go to now, and he's just bombarding, and he's just throwing. There's no setup. And
the way I look at it, though, just going off on a tangent a bit again, Poirier can take a loss. But I don't think McGregor can take a loss in this one. Poirier can afford to lose it. I think he's ranked first, isn't he? Obviously behind the champion. I was just thinking about that. Then McGregor can't take a loss. Chris, I know you're saying about Diaz, third fight with Diaz, but it's going to be more detrimental to McGregor than it is Poirier. That loss.
Yes, possibly. It could turn into that. Everyone does want to see Diaz and Conor free, and down the road, yes, maybe, but we want to see the bigger fights. We can always put Nate Diaz, Conor McGregor free on the back burner for now. But let's go back to the fight and what the game plans need to be, because it needs to be a game plan. I would ask you this question, and you've watched a fight. Did you see a game plan with Conor McGregor against Dustin in the fight that's just gone now?
He was trying to let his hands go, wasn't he? Like he always does. The punches fought more. So yeah, we've seen kicks, we've seen back kicks and stuff that he's implemented over the years. It was just very much punches. But as you say,
he was making space when he was doing all the spinning kicks, and it was he was keeping that his reach and his range. I look at it now, and I've looked hard, and I've really put a lot of effort into sort of where I think he can change the game per se, or give it a better game plan. He needs to implement leg kicks. So I think Dustin Poirier is going to know he's going to leg kick him back, because that's what Conor will do, because he did so well against Nate Diaz. He also, though, he needs to implement the style of being elusive and not being there and being there to be hit. It's hard to sort of come across and think, what's he going to do? Because like I say, we go back to the very first question: does he have the desire anymore? Is there literally a fire burning in Conor McGregor, or is he here just for money? I hope, and we both agree, it's not for money, because he's got enough money. But if you're going in and you want to be the champion again, you need to be training day in, day out, and you need to be fighting not just once every 5 years.
Will this fight go down to the ground? Now, they're famed for their striking. That's a way of looking at it, isn't it? Or is it just going to...
Well, yeah, well, Dustin took him down in the second fight, didn't he? Dustin is not bad on the ground, and I wouldn't really warrant Conor to sort of go for that sort of tactic. You know, if Conor can get him in the mount, Conor can get on top of him. I think Conor could easily hit him with that left hand and, you know, put him away. But Dustin Poirier's ground game to Conor's is, we haven't really much seen of Conor's, but we've seen Dustin Poirier. Dustin Poirier is one of a few submissions, you know, over time. He did an Anaconda to Jonathan Brooks. Was it Brookings who won the Ultimate Fighter?
Yeah, Jonathan Brookings, yeah.
Or put him away quite...
Brookings, I can't remember. I remember he was fair-haired lad, doesn't it? It was when Bruce Leroy was in the same house. It was that season. Sorry, but we're going off on a tangent here, aren't we, me saying that?
No. But you've got to look at things now, right? As we say fans, but, you know, fans of both fighters. Conor McGregor, I feel that at this point in time, was giving the blueprint to everybody how to beat him. And I think that came all the way from Diaz beating him with the rear naked choke a few years ago. You tire him out, you clinch work him, you know, you take him down, you make him work, and then, you know, Conor's punches, then his left hand punches, there's no spring to him as much.
People are getting better. People have just got better as well.
But he's never evolved.
It's crazy.
That's the crazy. Yeah, they are getting better.
Everyone's got, you know, the ability. And now Khabib's out of there. When you look at that top 10, I know we've said about it before. They're all amazing. Like, they're all amazing fighters. You know, they're all warrant. You'd have a handful of people in the division, wouldn't you? I think it's just so much quality, and it's because MMA's evolved and that, and everyone's got better stylistically. Everyone's good at a bit of everything. It's just so hard now, and I think you know, you've alluded to it many times. As his business stuff got in the way, time out the cage. Number one, if he'd have carried on, if he'd gone through consistently, you know, would he be better? That's the question that everyone poses. But don't write him off. Don't write him off on the weekend, is what I would say.
I wouldn't say write him off.
Up until today, the betting was very close. Bisping, Nick Pete. They were only saying a couple of days ago that it was very close. I know Dustin's starting to go, up as favourite, and I'm sure that'll increase as we get closer. But it's still a tough one. It's still a tough one, and Dustin Poirier doesn't want to sleep on Conor, does he?
No, but I think Dustin Poirier is in the ascendancy, though, isn't he? Dustin Poirier is the better fighter at this very point in time. Not skill sets now. I'm not saying skill sets, because we're going skill set for skill set. Conor is the better fighter. But if we're looking at as an MMA fighter in current stature, Dustin Poirier is the better fighter. Dustin Poirier, he's got the heart, he's got the cardio. You know, he's an absolute beast. He's a volume fighter. He pushes the pace. You know, like, again, I go back to when he pushes people against the cage and he unloads and he makes them work. There's one thing I found that Conor could do in that scenario now, and I watched a Mark Bremridge fight, his first ever fight in UFC. And there was those uppercuts. They were sweet and they were straight up. That's something he could use. And, you know, in Conor, with Dustin's pushing him back and making him, you know, fight his fight, those uppercuts would be brilliant. And I think that's something he could utilize and catch, you know, Dustin Poirier out. When Dustin Poirier's, like, you know, really, you know, putting the pressure on him. It like I say, it's a hard fight to say, because in your heart, yeah, you'd like Conor to win, but in my head, I'll say my prediction now, but I'm going for a Dustin Poirier TKO win in the third round. That's where I'm headed in my head.
And we will have your betting tips later as well. But yeah, just repeat that, because I know you'll come back to it. So what are you going for again?
I'm going. Dustin Poirier is going to win by KO in the third round.